Some interesting news in the podcast realm. Let's put this up there on the screen. The Obamas are leaving Spotify after they were unable to secure a deal. And by that I mean, whenever their contract came up with their production company, Krystal, Spotify declined to make an offer, essentially passing on the exclusive content that they had. And inside the story here is really interesting, which is basically the Obamas wanted a multi-million-dollar Spotify deal without actually doing that much work.
Right.
They only wanted to be on their podcast like 8 times, and the rest of a year, by the way. And the rest of the time, they were like, well, we want to build up a community.
We want to highlight emerging voices.
Emerging voices. And Spotify's like, we're not paying you for that. Also, your podcast is not even that good. I mean, the one with Bruce Springsteen was a disaster
so
from
cringe.
Internally in the company, and you can just look at the charts internally within Spotify in order to determine that. I mean, a lot of these Spotify deals, like Harry and Meghan, who have yet to work since like December, despite signing some $100 million deal or whatever, have not been good for the company. And the company is learning, which is that, yeah, you know who drives views and or who drives downloads? Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon, Andrew. I mean, all of these people who are online natives with real audiences, these fake big names like Obama and them, it maybe give you a pop in the beginning, but you got to do that stuff consistently.
Yeah.
And the Obamas simply don't want to put in the work. So now they're taking their podcast elsewhere.
I think there's also, in terms of how people feel about the Obamas, there's no doubt that there's a lot of like a reservoir of goodwill towards Barack and towards Michelle. But in terms of being like media personalities where people really want to like, you know, show up to listen to them every single week, I just don't think, I mean, there's evidence here to say that that's not really what people are looking for. Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting too that according to this piece, they said the Obamas were also reported to be frustrated that the exclusivity deal with Spotify was preventing them from reaching wider audiences on more platforms, which is kind of a way of saying like, our numbers here weren't very good, and they're blaming the platform rather than the content that they ultimately were putting out there. So it is interesting, and it's once again a kind of indictment of legacy, establishment, ideology, and personalities where, yeah, there may be a sort of generalized affection towards them, but actually the willingness to show up, tune in routinely was clearly just not there. So I wonder if they may just drop the whole podcast thing altogether. I wonder if they are going to go somewhere else.
It looks like what they're doing is they want to sign a deal with iHeartRadio because, like you said, they're blaming the fact that it was on a walled garden of Spotify. It's like, no, Spotify is not the problem. You can do super well on Spotify. Ask Joe Rogan. Our audience on Spotify is huge. Yeah. But whenever you go and you take a look at what they want, what they really want is to have shows where they don't actually have to do the work. I just love how, even when you look at it, like they barely appear even on their own podcasts, and they've been highlighted, which is, I think the fact is they don't actually want to weigh in. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to have to do the work necessary to build an audience, and they just want to rely on their star power and then build out, you know, other voices. You know, Obama's Netflix show reportedly has been a total disaster. His Parks one, Netflix is not highlighting it on their homepage. You have to go and really find it. Also, it was supposed to be about national parks, but it's about national parks in other countries as well, which is weird, given that he's the American president.
Oh, I wouldn't mind seeing those. That sounds.
I mean, look, I'd be happy to take a look, but I'm just saying it's strange. And
I didn't even know they were doing that. They're doing some series on national parks.
Obama, he had a whole series on that. He's like touring the national parks, like basically trying to do a Ken Burns like 2.0 thing.
I kind of want to do that. That sounds like a good
I would love to do it too. Guess what? Ken Burns already did it. So unless I have a great angle, and I'm not even Barack Obama, I'm not sure exactly if that show can be sold. But I think the real point is that their translation of star power to streaming is not necessarily going the way that it wants. And it's very telling to me that Spotify was like, nah, we're good. We're not going to pay you hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars to produce 8 podcasts, given the traction. Here's the thing. Only the Obamas and Spotify actually know the numbers on that pod.
Yeah.
And the fact that Spotify was like, we're not giving you money in order to keep doing this, that's a very bad sign.
I think it's also very consistent with Obama's whole personality and MO while he was president, which is like he didn't want to get his hands dirty.
Exactly.
Didn't really want to wade into like the messiness of politics.
100%.
He wanted to opine on the things that he wanted to opine on, and that was it. And so, yeah, when you're, you know, content creator and you're in this business, you got to wade in on all kinds of stuff. At this point, the only things he really cares to talk about are things that have to do with his legacy. You know, showing up here at the White House around the Affordable Care Act, intervening in the Democratic primary to make sure someone who supports Medicare for all couldn't sort of upstage his principal achievement during the Obama years. Those are the things that he gets directly involved in and is willing to get his like hands dirty on. Sort of the general day-to-day of politics and weighing in on whatever issues are going on in the day. He's not there for that, and really never has been.
Oh, well, it's a fitting thing to the Obama career. His Netflix show, his Spotify, and all of that lapsing. I think it's really a tell, even when you combine it with CNN Plus, which is that this establishment type content, it just doesn't do well. You can't force people to watch it. And when they're forced to really compete out here in the game, you just see how quickly a lot of that can erode.
That was kind of the point Sarah Fisher was making to us in a very like neutral and diplomatic
she's
way.
very good at this.
But you know, if you are going to survive on a walled garden platform, something like Spotify, you have to really have that fervent base of support where people are willing to make an effort to show up for you. If you have, the Obamas have sought to create this sort of just like broad sense of, you know, general sort of warmth towards them versus the diehard audience that is going to show up for you wherever you are or pay for a subscription to hear what you have to say. And so it's in that way, it probably never did really make sense, this exclusive deal they did with Spotify.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. More for you later. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.